Imagine, if you will, a world where the teachings of Jesus guide our every action. Now, consider the ongoing border crisis. What would Jesus do? In recent times, we've seen a surge of individuals seeking refuge, creating a situation that sparked debate, controversy, and even a mobilizing force known as God's Army. This group, driven by what they feel is a divine calling, has raised over $138,000 in donations, determined to stop the influx of migrants at the Texas border. But as we ponder the question of what Jesus would do in this scenario, we need to first fully comprehend the situation. What are the key figures and events shaping this crisis? What motivates this group who've taken it upon themselves to act in what they believe is accordance to God's will? As we delve deeper into this question, we must first understand the situation at hand. The border crisis is a complex issue, with various facets to consider. Let's take a moment to unravel these threads. Each year, thousands of people journey towards the U.S. border, seeking refuge from poverty, violence, and instability. The conditions they face on this journey and at the border itself are often grueling. Families are held in detention centers where overcrowding and inadequate resources pose significant challenges. It's a humanitarian crisis that has drawn international attention and responses from governments worldwide. Amidst this chaos, a group identifying themselves as God's Army has emerged. This convoy, consisting of concerned citizens, is on a self-proclaimed mission to stop migrants at the Texas border. They've garnered significant attention not only for their mission, but also for their fundraising efforts. In a short span, they've raised over $138,000 in donations. Their goal, as they claim, is to uphold law and order, and they believe their actions are in alignment with their faith. Government responses to the border crisis and to groups like God's Army vary widely. Some support stricter border controls, while others advocate for more compassionate immigration policies. The debate rages on, fueled by the ongoing crisis and the diverse perspectives on how to address it. In the midst of this, it's important to remember that every person involved, the migrant, the Border Patrol officer, the God's Army member, is a human being, with their own story, their own fears, and their own hopes. The issue is not black and white, and simplistic solutions may not do justice to the complexity of the situation. With these facts in mind, we can begin to explore what Jesus might do in this situation. In the face of such a crisis, what guidance might we find in Jesus' teachings? As we grapple with the complexities of the border crisis, we turn to the teachings of Jesus for wisdom and insight. His teachings, rooted in compassion, love for neighbors, and care for the needy, seem particularly relevant to this situation. Jesus' teachings are often distilled into the Golden Rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In the context of the border crisis, this principle invites us to empathize with the plight of the migrants, to imagine ourselves in their shoes, fleeing from danger and seeking a better life for our families. It encourages us to extend our compassion and understanding, even in challenging circumstances. In the book of Matthew, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." This teaching urges us to care for those who are marginalized and vulnerable, like the migrants at the border. It reminds us that in serving them, we are serving Jesus himself. Jesus also taught about the importance of loving our neighbors. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, he illustrated that our neighbor is not just the person who lives next door, but anyone in need of our help, regardless of their nationality or background. This parable challenges us to broaden our definition of neighbor to include the migrants at the border and to respond to their needs with love and kindness. And finally, Jesus emphasized the importance of caring for the needy. He told his followers, "Sell your possessions and give to the poor." This teaching prompts us to consider how we might use our resources to alleviate the suffering of the migrants, perhaps through donations or advocacy work. These teachings provide a framework for approaching the crisis, but how might they be put into action? With an understanding of Jesus' teachings, we can envision a response to the border crisis guided by compassion and love. The teachings of Jesus, centered on love, empathy, and kindness, provide us with a roadmap to navigate this complex situation. One of the most profound teachings of Jesus is love for our neighbors. If we apply this to the border crisis, it would mean extending a helping hand to the migrants. Offering them aid, be it in the form of food, shelter, or medical care, isn't just an act of charity. It's an act of love, reflecting the core of Jesus' teachings. Moreover, Jesus himself was a strong advocate for the downtrodden and the marginalized. If we take his teachings to heart, we should be advocating for the humane treatment of migrants. This includes standing against any form of cruelty or mistreatment they might face. It means raising our voices against injustices and working towards fair and just immigration policies. It's important to remember that in the parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus taught us that our neighbor isn't just someone from our community, our culture, or our country. Our neighbor is anyone who is in need. Therefore, turning a blind eye to the plight of the migrants is not in line with Jesus' teachings. Contrary to this, we see the approach of the God's Army convoy. While they may believe they're doing God's work, it begs the question, is their approach truly reflective of Jesus' teachings? Jesus taught us to love our neighbors, not to turn them away. He taught us to be peacemakers, not to cause division. While we can't know for certain what Jesus would do, we can strive to apply his teachings of love and compassion to this crisis. By doing so, we can hope to make a difference, no matter how small, in the lives of those affected by the border crisis.
We are constantly making new content to help you on your walk of faith. Please like and subscribe to make sure you stay up to date with the latest content.